All right, everybody, welcome to today's training call. My name's Joe Johnson. I'm going to be your host today. So today's training, it's going to be kind of a short training call here. Kind of have a lot on my mind. I've been working with agents throughout the week, a lot of new agents wanting to do telesales. So I thought I'd just put together kind of a quick training call. And for new people, this is mainly geared for new people just kind of starting to get going with telesales. So I took a bunch of notes. I'm going to be reading from my notes here. First thing, here's my first tip. Number one, if you want to be good in telesales, you can't wing it. You just can't get on the phone and start winging it. You need to memorize your scripts. You need to rehearse your scripts. You need to drill every single day. My recommendation would be print those scripts out, memorize them, read through them, rehearse them, and drill on it at least 10 to 15, if not 20 times a day. Okay. That's what's going to get you good at that. Because what you want the scripts and the rebuttals to be almost like memory muscle. Like if you've like playing golf, having that swing, riding a bike, just knowing what to do. You guys ever see that movie? This kind of reminds me of. You guys remember the movie The Karate Kid? The original one, with Mr. Miyagi and the wax on, the wax off, wax on, wax off. Why was he doing that? To develop muscle memory. So when someone would throw a punch, it was wax on, wax off. That's how good you want to be. So you don't even need the script. You get to a point where you can take that script, you can wad it up and throw it away. You don't need the rebuttals in front of you. You just know how to handle it. It just comes naturally. That's how good. But you don't get that way overnight. You've got to work at it really, really hard for a long period of time. That's how you get good at it. Here's another tip that you can do. You can record yourself. Tape record yourself. I recommend record yourself on the phone, like do video. This way you can look at your body language. You can, I just think you get more out of it if you record it, because not only do you get the audio, you get the visual, you get to see how you were acting while you were doing that. Work on your tonality and your cadence. Remember, like what I always say to agents is go low and slow. Now, when I say low, I don't mean you don't necessarily need to talk softly, but maybe in a little bit lower pitch versus a higher pitch. I think that will be important. Here's what you got to remember is that when you're dealing with seniors, a lot of seniors have hearing problems. So your cadence, don't speak fast. Just learn to speak slow. I'm inherently, I don't think I'm really a fast speaker. I can if I need to, but what I have found is when I'm on the phone, I talk so slow that I almost annoy myself of how slow and enunciate those words. Don't slur, learn to enunciate. And I think once you get that script down and once you memorize a script, you almost internalize it and it becomes natural. It becomes just part of your vocabulary. Another thing that you need to learn is to speak with confidence, and you almost want to project a position of authority or an expert. Okay, if you're going to your attorney and your attorney is giving you expert advice, you listen. When you go to the doctor, your doctor is giving you expert advice. You are the financial expert. You are the final expense expert. Okay. Speak like you're an expert. Speak with authority. Have some confidence, have compassion, and that will come across through the phone if you speak like that. And what you will find is that people will respond to someone that they feel is is knowledgeable and is in control. Okay. That's really positive. I mean, I want to do business. I want to do business with someone that knows what the hell they're talking about. Does that make sense? By the way, um, this call is for our community of senior life agents. Our agencies are, senior life. But it could be open for anybody. So if you're watching this as a replay on YouTube, if you'd like to get some coaching, if you want to talk to me one-on-one to get some help, I'm going to leave my information. Again, it's Joe Johnson with Senior Life. I'm going to leave my information in the description below. And if you're interested in contracting opportunities with Senior Life, I'm going to leave a link where you can contact us and we can discuss the opportunity here with Senior Life. Here's another thing too, is speak with enthusiasm, but you need it to be like controlled enthusiasm. Like you don't want to sound like a telemarketer. Hey Bob, how you doing? This is Joe. Hey, you having a great day? No, but you don't want to sound like bubbly, but you also don't want to sound like you're having a crappy day either. So you need to have, I kind of call it controlled enthusiasm. You want to be polite but assertive, if that makes sense. And the most important thing is don't come off like a telemarketer. You know what telemarketers sound like. Remember, you're not a telemarketer. You're not cold calling. You're only reaching out to people that have specifically asked for information about state regulated final expense / burial plans. Okay. So have conviction and have confidence in what you're doing, and the fact that no, in your heart of hearts, you're not a telemarketer. You're not annoying somebody. Your job is simply to provide the information which they requested. So act like a professional, and um, don't be a pushover on the phone. And if you come from a position of authority and you sound like an expert, you will get quicker and you'll get instant respect from the consumer on the other line as soon as they catch on to the fact that you're a licensed professional. This is no joke, and you're simply getting back in touch with them in regards to the information that they requested, however they requested it. That's another thing. Try to learn, and this is tough for me because I'm a big I know when I listen to myself on YouTube recordings, I do a lot of um uh uh work your best to work the yeah, out of what you're saying. It does put you in a position where maybe you sound a little bit less confident, like maybe you're not an expert, like you're searching for the answer. I know I do it all the time. I work really hard to eliminate that. I know I still do it. I know I can still work on it. But here's what I can tell you. Instead of saying because usually we say that when we're trying to think of something, just pause and don't say anything. It's better to have just a 2 or 3 second pause in your conversation. Okay, Mary, versus just learn to have a pause instead of using one way to get better at that is if you take my advice and you record yourself. That's the best way to do it. And get yourself a role play partner. Find, get your spouse or a buddy, or talk to your dog or your cats or whoever, and just role play it, record it, listen back, and count how many times you say, yeah, you make those little sounds that really are not words. Try to get those out of your script. The other thing too, which helps with your voice inflection and your cadence, don't be afraid when you're talking. Use body language when you're talking, even though they can't see you. Body language in smiling on the phone has gives your what you want to say energy. Okay. Now, another thing that I will do sometimes when I got a hot prospect and I'm on the phone and I'm talking, I'm talking to that prospect. A lot of times I'll get up out of my chair and I'll kind of walk around, because I don't want my diaphragm to be depressed. I want to be up and be able to talk to that person sometimes. And I don't know, maybe it's a personal thing, but for me, I feel like I'm a little bit more on top of my game when I'm on my feet. I have a saying, and it's this: is that it's hard to think on your feet when you're sitting on your ass. Okay, so sometimes maybe stand up, walk around the room. It'll give your voice a little bit more energy. Practice, and this could take some practice. Learn to get some good voice inflection in the way that you speak. Don't be super monotone. Don't talk in one sentence like this and you sound like a robot. What you're going to do is you're going to bore your client to death. Learn to have a good cadence, a good rhythm, some voice inflection. Learn to go up and then learn when to go down. One of the things that I do when a client, here's an example. So here's one of my favorite. It's not really a rebuttal. Sometimes people think it is. A client says, "Hey, what's this all about?" So instantly, a lot of agents will go, "Well, this is about the state regulated life insurance," and they go into like the I guess you can say like the mechanics of it. I don't do that. When a client says me, "So Joe, what's this? I don't remember the form. What's this all about?" No problem, Mrs. Smith. Here's what I can tell you. And I kind of lower my voice. Here's what I can tell you, Mrs. Smith. Most of the people like yourself that responded to the mailing or clicked on the post in Facebook, they tell me that their main concern was they just want to make sure that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Was that your concern as well? See how I kind of get a little bit lower? I want to try to make like a connection, like if I was actually there. So learn to do that. Your clients will engage with you better. They will open up to you better if you use some voice inflection. Ask good fact finding questions, but don't ask them like you're interrogating them. Okay, so why'd you fill the form out? What was your concern? Who are you trying to protect? That sounds like you're interrogating them. Don't interrogate them. Learn to ask good fact finding questions, but learn to do it more in a conversational type way. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. Let me think of an example. So, Mrs. Jones, when you filled this form out, was there anyone in particular in your family that you were trying to protect? Or who would you want to name, if we can get you approved, who would you want to name as your beneficiary? Who would you want that money to go to? So so just learn to not and you don't want when you're doing your fact finding, you don't want it to sound like the Spanish Inquisition, okay? Or like they're at the police station and you're doing you got the spotlight on them and you're doing like an interrogation. Ask questions also that will uncover the emotional why. Like, Mrs. Smith, I'm assuming when you filled out this form, I'm assuming your main concern was you just want to make sure that when you do pass away, you're not leaving your family with a financial burden. Is that correct? Okay. God forbid if you were to pass away prematurely, who is it that who is it that you'd be leaving behind? Do you still have children that are living? You can ask those questions and find out what their names are. Then you can make a connection. Yeah, my son, Henry, he lives with me and he's the one that's going to be responsible. Okay. So now you got a name to kind of go along with it. That's a really good tool. The other thing too, man, just remember it's going to take a little bit of time to get good at this. I'm still trying to get good at it. I'm really good at at in-home face-to-face sales, I'm really working hard to get better. I feel like I'm pretty good at making connection with people, but I'm still working really, really hard to get better in the telesales game. Why did they request the information in the first place? That's a really good question. Finding out who's the client is trying to protect from the not only the financial but also the emotional burden. Just remember this too. If in the beginning, when you start anything new, you're going to suck at it. Okay. You're not going to be good at it. Just get over it. That's just the way it is. No one's ever good at anything when they first tried, but they keep practicing. They keep practicing. Have you ever heard the saying, hey, fake it till you make it? Why don't you try that? Why don't you, if you're not good on the phone, first of all, do this. Give yourself permission to fail, okay? Because you're going to fail. You're going to suck at it in the beginning. So give yourself permission to fail and give yourself plenty of space to learn. But why not fake it? Why not pretend like you're an actor? Why not pretend that you're good? Act like you're good. Act like you know what you're talking about. Act like a professional. Give yourself some fake confidence if you need to, until you have that confidence. And here's what I can say. Here's two things that will give you confidence. It's compassion and conviction. When you have a conviction, it automatically makes you sound like you're speaking with authority, even if you didn't know what the hell you were talking about. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's okay to kind of play act like you know what you're talking about. Just gonna read my notes here. I took some. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Give yourself plenty of time. Like I said, give yourself at least 90 to 120 days to get through that learning curve. The only thing that's going to get you through the learning curve, however, is massive action. Making $20, $30 a day is not massive action. $250 a day, $300 a day, having 4, 5, 6 conversations a day, that's getting through the learning curve. The only thing that gets anybody through any type of learning curve is massive action. Massive action accelerates you through the learning curve. It's called condensing time frames. When you condense your time frames, so here's a good example of condensing time frames. Let's say to get really good at telesales, you need to spend, let's just say 10 hours role playing role playing and rehearsing 10 hours. Okay. Here's what I can tell you is that a person who commits and spends in one day from, let's say, 9 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. No, that would be more than 10 hours. Let's say 9 to 7 o'clock in the evening. Spent 10 hours all day rehearsing just one day, rehearsing and role playing, going over that script, pounding it, just, doing everything in their power to commit that to memory and knowing it and how to overcome all the rebuttals. That person will be much more effective and will remember the content longer than the person who spends 10 hours practicing but spreads it out over 2 weeks. So you got one person who studied the material for one day. You got another person who studied it for 2 weeks, but they spread it out. The person who condenses the time frames is the person who's going to learn it the quickest, and is the person who's going to be the most effective. Here's another tip for you. Here's one thing that, and I was super guilty of this, especially in the beginning, but agent agents inherently always underestimate the amount of activity it's going to take to succeed. Okay. Again, you got to track your activity, use your daily activity tracker, mark down your dials, your scripts, your connections. But doing 40, 50 dials a day, that's not going to cut it. You're never going to get good at this doing mediocre activity. So again, don't underestimate the activity, don't underestimate the leads. If you're doing telesales, if you're doing it part-time, you're going to need at least 20 fresh leads a week part-time. You're doing it full-time, you're going to need probably twice that many. You're going to need 40 to 50 leads a week to be super. If you want to write 5, 6, 7,000 hours a week, you're going to need 30 to 40 leads as a telemarketer, some type of digital lead, Facebook leads. It can even be direct mail leads too. You can sell direct mail leads over the phone, but you got to have a lot of prospects to be able to talk to. You got to work at least, like I said, 20 to 40 fresh leads every single week. Your goal should be if you're not using a dialer, you're manually dialing 250 dials a day. That should be your target. Or the other thing that you can do is you can count your script time, your presentation time. You want to be able to make at least 3 or 4 presentations a day, or you want to have about roughly 4 to 5 hours of what we call talk time. Here's one little tip. Here's a pro tip I'm going to tell you when you're dialing your leads. Triple tap them. Okay. Here's what a triple tap is. I got my lead. I punch in the number, right? I put it on speakerphone. I let it ring 2 or 3 times. Boom, instantly hang up. Then I push redial. I don't have to push all the numbers back in, just redial. This time I'll let it go a little bit more, hang up. The third time, this is crazy. It's unbelievable how many people will pick up the third time you call. And they usually don't say anything. Like, they're just like, hello? Like, because their curiosity got them. I had a lady I was just talking to the other day. I triple dialed her. She didn't pick up. And then the next day I was dialing her again and she did pick up, and she told me, I didn't want to miss this call. I thought it was maybe a family member because I missed 3 calls yesterday. Okay. So it's a little bit of I won't get into all the psychology of it. I'm just telling you this. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be a wimp. Triple dialing works. You're not going to offend anybody. And don't be afraid to call early. Don't be afraid to call 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't wait till noon to start making your dials. They could be out of the house. They could be doing their doctor's appointments or whatever it is that they're doing. Give yourself a goal that you need to hit. If you're doing this full time, your goal should be a minimum of 15 presentations every single week. Commit to 15 presentations no matter what. Okay. If you need to buy more leads to do 15 presentations, whatever it takes. What's a presentation? A presentation is when a presentation is not a presentation unless you give them numbers and you ask to commit. You give them, I like doing a 3-option close. Boom, boom, boom. Mrs. Jones, you tell me which one of those works best for you. Okay. Or Mrs. Jones, you tell me which of these programs do you want to enroll to protect your daughter or for your daughter, Melissa? That's another way of doing it. But presentations, not a presentations, if you don't give numbers and you don't ask for the order. And look for opportunities during your conversation to dig deeper into probing questions in a non-confrontational way. I should have brought that up earlier, but it's okay to ask digging questions. If someone tells you, here's an example. had a client last week that was talking about she lost her son in a drive-by, Chicago. I live in Illinois. I talk to a lot of Chicago people. These kids are getting murdered like crazy. Her son was in a car and got killed. So I didn't just skim over it. I sympathized with her. I gave her my condolences, asked some probing questions. So, did was there any life insurance involved? Is there protection? How are you guys going to pay for the funeral? Don't be afraid. Be a human. Don't be afraid to ask in-depth questions because it's important. Learn to connect with your clients. Remember, objection handling is not effective if you don't discover the why. Okay. Here's what I mean by that. If you don't dig into the emotional part of why your client is looking for coverage, objection handling is superficial. Like, it's not as effective. I'm a lot better at handling objections when I know what my client's why is, why they sent the card in, who is it that they're trying to protect, who is it in their family that they've lost, have they lost loved ones in the last year, were they involved in the planning, how much did the funeral cost. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions, but you got to do it in a you got to do it in a caring fashion. And it helps if you actually care. Like, I really care about my clients and I want to connect with them. Okay. And when you really give a crap, it comes across over the phone that you have compassion and empathy for the position that they're in. And your job as an agent is to help relieve that. I hope that makes sense. All right, a couple other things, and we're gonna let you guys go. Remember to be a good listener. Your client says something, just don't be so focused that you got to get through the script that you skip over something good. Like this lady I was talking about that her son got killed in a shooting. Oh man, Mr. Jones, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Oh, by the way, do you already have life? I could have skipped over it, brushed over it. Don't be a good listener. Your client, through the conversation, is going to give you clues as to what their buttons are. A client says, yeah, I mean, I've been looking for coverage. I can't find anything that's affordable. Oh, ding, ding, ding. Like, I'm looking for some affordable coverage. Yeah, it's a good thing we're talking, Mrs. Smith. Boom. Don't skip over it. Find out, well, what have you found? What kind of prices are you looking for? I'm sure you're on a tight budget. What have you set aside? It's okay to give yourself permission to get off script, to don't be so focused that you got to stick to the script that you miss all the good stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Last thing I want to talk to you guys about, it's a word maybe you've never heard before, or a phrase. You guys know what poverty is when someone's in poverty? Okay, sometimes agents find themselves in poverty, but not financial poverty. It's what I call lead poverty. Okay, lead poverty, let me explain. Lead poverty is when you have more time on your hands than you have leads. Okay, you need to flip-flop that. You need to have more leads in inventory. You got to have more people to call than you have time, because somebody taught me that it's not healthy to get emotionally tied to every outcome of every lead. Okay, so now the thing about it is if you only got 10 leads to dial for the week, man, you're going to be worried about everything. Oh my God, I got 3 no's. I only got 7 more leads. This sucks. You know what I mean? But if I get a no, 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 and I still got a stack of 30 or 40 leads I got to go through, I'm not worried about the person that was a jerk. I'm not worried about the person who said, "Oh, I'm not doing anything. Call me back in 6 months." I can't get them to commit. I'm not worried about it because I don't want to exist in what I call lead poverty. So do not have don't don't get into the trap of having lead poverty, because lead poverty will end up resulting into you, again, becoming emotionally attached to the outcome of every single lead, and that will mess you up, and it will drive you crazy, and you will be less effective. You will be more effective. You got to have a short memory. Okay, now you can learn from different things, and I encourage this. This is the last point I'm gonna give you, especially when you're new. As you're getting objections and you couldn't handle it while it's fresh in your head, before you make your next dial, write down that objection and get with your upline and get some coaching. Ask your upline, how do they overcome that objection. All right, everybody, thanks for attending. I hope this information is helpful. And again, if you'd like to get in contact with me, if you like some private coaching, or if you like some information about how to get contracted with Senior Life, because we do have an amazing platform. We got a great program, we got great leads. Check out my contact information below and we can have a conversation. All right, everybody, take care, and we will talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.